Hello, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Cinemondo podcast with Kathy, Mark, and Burk, talking about movies. And today we're actually going to talk about a movie. We all watched it.
Yeah, we're going to review this film, Indian film called Andhadhun, which came out in 2018. Huge critical and box office success. I think the budget was 32 crore, and it made like 500 crore. So it was
wow.
Successful film. It won all kinds of awards in India, and so a lot of our commenters said, "Hey, you should watch this film and talk about it." So here we are doing that.
And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the film, and then we're going to have a point in the middle of this episode where we're going to delineate the first part from the second part, and we're going to spoil it because we want to talk about
spoiler zone.
We're going to go into the spoiler zone thing.
Yeah, the less you know, the better. It's one of those twists and turns that half the fun of it is not knowing anything when you go in.
Thank you for the comment, for the suggestion, recommendation of this film. So and speaking of recommendations and comments, don't forget to comment, subscribe, and like to our YouTube channel, listen to our podcast. We've got hundreds. And feel free to give us a special thanks, which is extra special. A super thanks. Sorry,
it's called super thanks.
Yes,
super, because it's super.
It's super. It's highlighted. It's color coded.
It's so fun to see those. I see them come in. I'm like, that's so exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is. So, but thanks for watching. But let's talk about this film that. Like I said, it was so respected when it came out.
Yeah, and I think all three of us recommend it. I mean, we're all three of us advocating that you should go see this film and then come back and finish watching this.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting story, and it's basically, the plot is so sort of labyrinthine that we're not going to go through the whole thing, but it's basically about a blind pianist who you just start to see his life, his regular life in India, in the town of I think it's in Pune is where the film is set, and he meets this woman Sophie when he's crossing the street. I guess he gets knocked over, and they start a relationship, a friendship. And
she gets knocked over.
She gets knocked over. That's right.
You're like, so he meets this woman and she gets knocked over. Like, it's like, that's just what happens.
She hits him on her scooter. She drives this really cool yellow scooter through the streets, and it's a funny scene where she's yelling at somebody in a truck, like, are you blind? And then she zooms away all pissed off, and she runs into this blind guy. Like immediately.
Literally a blind guy.
Right. And so, but they start a relationship.
Very cute relationship.
Yeah.
Very cute.
Very intimate and sweet. And she really, of course, is impressed by his piano playing, and his, I think her dad owns like a sort of a piano bar nightclub. And so he starts playing there, and, is a big hit. And there's a retired actor there. His name is Pramod Sinha. Notices him and invites him to perform at his wedding ceremony, or his wedding anniversary.
At his anniversary, he does a private concert for his lovely young wife. And they're both,
and they were funny too. Their relationship when they showed him was actually very cute and lively and fun. I liked that too.
But it's a film that to me it starts off and I'm like, well, this is interesting. It's a little kind of a type of movie that I don't normally watch. It's a a romance. Cute romance, two people kind of meet in that sort of meet cute way, and she's just adorable and on her little scooter, and he is, you have sympathy for him, but he's getting along, he gets around pretty well, and he's
very handsome,
and he's not he's not pathetic and feeling sorry for himself or anything like that, and but then Should we go into the spoilers at this point?
We should go very soon. Also, I just want to mention that this is actually based on a French film, 2002, called The Piano Tuner. So it has a very metropolitan, quirky, clever French tone to it, which you could totally see as sort of one of those little complicated romantic comedies, which is what you kind of assume you're watching when you start.
Yes. Yeah, so he's invited to go.
Okay, you want to add a spoiler zone?
Yeah.
This is what we're going to do, the spoiler zone versus the non-spoiler zone.
Spoiler zone. And this twist usually comes in. This comes in about
when this is enough.
This is enough.
I think that's a good.
We're good. Spoiler zone. Okay, we've had enough of my terrible singing also. So there we go. Okay, so now let's get into the the real gist of it.
Well, here's the big twist.
Dun dun dun. And seriously, people, if you have not seen it, please do not listen to this.
The first big twist is that Akash is the name of the character. The blind pianist is not blind.
Right.
He has no contact.
It seems like he feels like he's fallen for this girl, and he kind of feels maybe bad that he's misleading her and all that. Yeah. So he wears these kind of milky contact lenses, and there's a scene where he kind of takes them out, and he says, you get the impression that he's like, I'm not going to wear these, and I'm gonna tell her. You get the feeling that he's on the verge of telling her because he really likes her, but then. Then he shows up at this private concert at the actor's house, and he goes in, pretending to be blind because he's supposed to be this great blind musician. He sits down, and the wife is there, the young wife, but the actor is not there. But the young wife kind of moves out of the frame, and he sees beyond her that there is a dead body in the dining room and a puddle of blood. The movie completely changes its direction at this point and becomes a sort of a scary Hitchcockian murder mystery with a quirk that's really cool. What does he do now?
It does. It is kind of Hitchcockian when
Very
you think about
much
it, because
so.
he's like this everyday guy. Even the fake blind thing could be Hitchcockian, really.
Yeah.
I mean, so the fact that he ends up upon a crime like this, and then he has to still keep his shit together.
You can't say anything
because
about it.
He's blind and hasn't actually seen anything, but you're still seeing something so completely traumatic and fucked up. And he's got to be like, I'll just keep playing.
It's kind of a great scene because he's sort of like trying to like be natural. No, there's a dead body right there, and there's a pool of blood, and there's another guy that is in the apartment too. So he's trying to keep his shit together and play the piano,
while he's watching him mop up the blood.
Oh my god!
Because as soon as he kind of lets on or something, he could be dead. He's done.
He's a witness,
right?
And how do you get out of that situation? Like, you can't just go, well, I gotta go now. Like, you have to pretend like you're just doing your thing.
And he's playing while they sort of take the body and kind of fold it into this big suitcase and kind of carry it out of the apartment. And he's still playing. It's like, wow, that's what the movie said. Whoa, okay, this totally a left turn. I love left turns like that.
But that is such a great hook right there. That's such a great hook. And then there's another twist. He goes to the police, of course. I mean, everybody in the movie is like, well, go tell the police. So he goes to the police with the intention of course, saying, look, I'm not really blind. Look, I can read. He could very easily go to the police and say, I witnessed this thing because they thought I was blind. They would totally believe him. He could prove it. But then while he's just about to take his glasses off when the chief of police comes out of the room. And it's the dude he saw in the apartment mopping up the blood with the woman.
So once again, he has to keep his shit together and still act blind, even though he's seen the guy and not react. It was really some fun acting.
And also, he just said, I witnessed a murder. So this guy comes out and he goes, and he recognizes him, of course. This is the blind guy playing the piano when we murdered this guy.
So he's a little suspicious, like, why are you here? He's,
what?
So he has to make up a story on the fly, like, my cat.
Yeah.
So it's
so funny. He does have a cute kitty. He does have a cute kitty.
You put your
kitty stop watching this film. It's a total page turner.
You put yourself in the position of, well, what would I do if I was in this, impossible situation? And other things happen. Like, there's a neighbor, an elderly neighbor who kind of saw something going on, and
she knew there was another man in there.
Right.
Yes. Like I saw another man. He looked like a bodybuilder, and he went in there.
Yeah. And so, of course, the wife, her name was in the movie Simi. She overhears this, and there's this other scene where she just, tosses her off a ledge,
just like gotta go.
Like, holy moly,
so evil. Wow. She was hardcore.
But he sees that. That's when he arrives. The elevator opens just as she's shoving this lady off the balcony. And he's got to not be shocked by that. And he's just tapping his cane, and he goes up to the door and rings the doorbell like he never saw anything. And there's so many of those moments in this film where you're like, ah.
And the police are kind of like, why are you always here when this shit's happening? Like, what? And it's like, here's this blind guy just happens to be in all these weird crime scenes. Like, what?
Yeah.
It was really funny.
And there's lots of that keep continuing to go on through the movie. So it's constantly was like sort of surprising me, and it's very hard to surprise me. Like the script is so interesting, like it's taking these crazy turns. Like there's a scene where he's like, hanging out, like at a bus stop or something, or he's having lunch, and there's a woman selling flowers, and there's somebody else who's like the driver, like the cab driver, and they come later on. They come back into the picture because they're part of the plot, but they're just sort of innocent bystanders.
She's selling lottery tickets on the street.
Right, lottery tickets. Yeah. That's what it was.
That's right.
And she thinks he's blind, so she's like, God favors the blind, so touch a lottery ticket, and my next customer will buy that one, and he'll be a big winner. And so he does it, okay.
Okay, I'm touching a lottery ticket. Yeah. Okay, fine.
But yeah, I mean, things get worse and worse for this guy in the story. It's one of those, in a kind of a film noir way, where you have gotten yourself into this situation by being dishonest.
Yep.
Even though your intentions might not have been bad, you have now gotten yourself into a huge mess. And the more you try to get yourself out of that mess, the deeper into the mess you fall. And before long, he's in the clutches of organ harvesters who want his
It goes very weird.
And it goes. The film just goes nuts. We don't have to get into all the details of what happens to this guy, but he goes really through a nightmare.
But a film noir, Hitchcock, it's all of that, but it's in a surprising way. There's a neighbor, there's a child who's like a next door neighbor.
I love the kid. He's great.
He's totally like curious and suspicious about what's going on. And he videos something. So there's all these things that sort of actually could really happen if you said faked being blind. I mean, all this shit starts happening to you.
Well, the thing I like too is that this could totally have existed without the blind angle. Like he could have just been like, he could have been called over to the house to do the piano playing. They could have been hiding the crime like just out of sight, but he's sort of onto it, still having to pretend. But I love that they added that little extra wrinkle, because if he comes out about his blindness, he could also sort of throw away the career that he'd been making, because everyone's giving him this extra attention and consideration because he's blind, so he's having a little bit of success with it. So then he looks like a total asshole if he goes, I'm not blind, everyone. It's just a big lie. But you're right. I love the idea.
Anyway, you're a liar. You go to court with that, and you're like, well, didn't you lie about being blind?
You're a terrible witness.
Believe you now.
Your whole life is built on a lie. And like Burke said, so all this stuff happens to him because he's a big liar. And he's lying to the woman he cares about. He's lying to the people he works for. He's lying to,
and he's always lying.
Complicated too. It's that stolen valor kind of thing where you're pretending to have a disability, which is like, that's pretty low, But his explanation for it was that he wanted to sort of, he was wearing a eye mask to imagine being blind, and I think his intention, I think he explains it at one point, where he wanted to sort of deprive himself of certain of his sense of vision, so that he could concentrate on his music more. And it's kind of a legitimate thing, I guess, in a weird way. But you could argue that when he was playing his piano in his apartment, he would wear these, he would pretend, closes, take away the sense of vision so that he could focus on the sound, on the music.
So Burke, you're a musician. Did that intrigue you in a way of like, shutting out the outside world, like taking away your senses and like playing your music without any input from your visual, or do you need the vision to do that?
I've never really thought about it, honestly. I feel like all of your senses are a part of your inspiration. Yeah. And I do kind of think about it, and it's like, I do put limitations on myself sometimes with art, with any creative art. You do kind of, you sort of, sometimes when you're writing music or when you're doing visual art, it's almost like there's too many options. When you look at that blank canvas, it's a white canvas. I could do anything on there. So sometimes it's good to sort of focus it, zero it down. I challenge myself sometimes, or actually have artist friends that I ask to challenge me, like ask me to draw something that I don't normally draw.
Oh, that's funny.
Or let's talk about a kind of music that I've never written before,
Mm-hmm.
a type of music that I've never thought about writing. I've always done this kind of music. I've never really thought about doing that kind of music. And that sort of limits and focuses down so that you can then concentrate on something and do something you've never done before. I think that's the implication of what the guy is attempting with this blindness idea. Sensory deprivation maybe challenges him to write music in a way that he wouldn't have if he had been distracted by all the stuff that he's seeing in the city and the people and the faces.
And they started noticing more generosity and more attention because he was, appearing blind. And then he was kind of, well, I kind of like this because it's kind of working for me. And then he's like, I'll just keep trying. And then all of a sudden he's locked in to this lifestyle.
It's the kind of lie that once you tell it, you are locked in, and you
all of a sudden it's like, oh, by the way, I'm not really blind. And then everyone just feels betrayed.
You are if you're thinking being blind,
Yeah. And even towards the end of the film, they fast forward 2 years later, and he's part of this this concert group, and he's playing, and he sees or Sophie finds him. His name is Akash, but he kind of I guess he told the whole story there, didn't he? I
think that's the narrative trick of the film is that you're watching his story. Right. As he's telling it to her at that cafe in Venice. I think they're in Venice. Because at one point he stops the story, and then she's like, well, then what happened? And then he goes back.
Right. Gotcha.
Then you kind of wonder, is he an unreliable narrator adding this sort of organ harvesting thing to spice things up?
Exactly. So there's all this there's a lot of layers that make it really entertaining and interesting the whole way. And even the last scene, there's sort of something that questions, the very last scene is like, that's a kind of an exclamation point or something to think about. So
we should leave that unsaid.
The whole thing is kind of a trick. Like they're tricking you while he's tricking other people. And in the meantime, you're going one way with the narrative and they're going another way. So the whole time you're sort of kept off balance by where is this thing going? Who's telling the truth? What is happening?
A very smart script. I mean, you really had to really think this one out, sort of plan it out. So I thought that's why I really liked it. I said, I
really liked it too. I thought it was very compelling story because you really like these people, even though Akash is, a sort of slightly despicable liar.
I know, but you like him for some reason. He just seems so likable.
You're in his shoes through the movie. He's the guy that you're following. You're
trying to relate to him, even though you don't agree with his methods.
You don't want to as soon as there's a body on the floor, with a pool of blood, you got to escape that. You got to somehow save yourself, and you're in there. You're in his shoes.
Yeah, so. And then all of a sudden, his crime of lying doesn't seem as bad because there's way worse crimes than a guy lying about being blind. I guess maybe. I don't know. It's pretty bad.
There's a scene there where he's trying to sort of talk his way out. There's some confrontations that are really scary in this, like when the killer guy, the corrupt policeman shows up and tries to kill him. That's genuinely horror film scary almost. But then you wonder. There's another scene where he confronts the woman too, and she tries to kill. She tries to really do horrible things, and then he's saying, look, I'm not going to tell anybody about this. I just want to get away from all this. I'm going to London tomorrow, going back to London. You get the impression that he's just in this small town to play the blind guy thing.
Yeah.
And then he's going to go back to his real life in London and and then nobody will know him,
Right.
But
then as things go, how whenever you try and do that shit, you get caught up in a whole murder plot every time.
Every time.
So if you like a thriller that's in that Hitchcock mode with that film noir stuff that it hooks you from pretty much the get-go, then you're gonna have a fun time with this movie.
And it has a little extra uniqueness because it's an Indian film, so you're seeing a whole different culture. You're seeing locations you don't normally see. Even though it feels like a very metropolitan urban story, it has all these affects that are really interesting and unique. So I really enjoyed that, just the whole aspect of the cultural differences and the beauty of it.
You get to see everyday life in India. That's the thing I love about films where they're not pushing the idea of like, oh, here's how it is to live in India. We have to do this and this and this, and this is what we have here and there. It's like, no, it's just, this is everyday life. This is very
kind of like
normal.
The Lunchbox in a way. It just sort of gives you this little glimpse of just normal life. It's not trying to make a point of it. It's just this is what it is. Except there's a murder and a blind guy and a liar.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like there. Yeah.
These little elements that feel like American films.
Andhadhun is the name. The
Andhadhun.
rough translation is blindly, but it's based on that French film from 2002 called The Piano Tuner. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I think we all liked
a
it.
little bit of French, a little bit of Indian, a lot of Hitchcock. It's really kind of the perfect movie.
It's a
Yeah.
it's a film worth seeking
Really
out,
fun.
and it's available on Netflix, so you can watch it anywhere.
It's
Watch
fun, and there's
it.
more to it than we said.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
When you try to go into the story of this film and you try to remember it, it's like, oh my God, there was this whole other part in there. Remember that whole other part?
Yeah.
I love the
It's like
beginning
5
and
different
end.
movies.
It does. You do get a lot of movies in this,
Yes.
which is kind of fun because you always get thrown off balance because you're watching, like you said, you're watching one movie, all of a sudden it becomes a different movie, all of a sudden it's a different movie. But I love that they have 2 bookend scenes that are really important, that are great, and it's really a smart movie. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Really fun,
Great.
cleverly devised.
Yeah,
It's a puzzle film. You're trying
Those
to
are always
solve a puzzle. Yeah,
and that, like, how would I get out of this? How's he going to get out of it? I mean, it just seemed impossible.
and he doesn't
From
do
what Matt
stupid things. People don't do stupid. There's no
Yeah.
stupid people.
No,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Everybody's
seems
pretty
sensible.
smart. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
So-
check it out. Get Cinemondo seal of
And
approval.
Headhunt. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Headhunt. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you soon.
Enjoy.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.